In the words of the English songwriter Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, well, you might find you get what you need. While Dennis Dobie might have had rock and roll dreams when he walked out the doors of Mapleton High School in 1971, it turned out that his need to help kids led him right back to Maple River, where he served as a special education teacher. Today, we'll look back on his career and also learn what he's been doing in his golden years. This video is sponsored by Kilty's Market, your local community connection for high quality foods, friendly service, and great prices. Prior to coming back to Maple River, Dobie worked as a substitute, a paraprofessional, and a teacher at LCWM and JWP before coming to Maple River in 1999. He retired in 2016 after teaching for 17 years.
Well, I've got to go back just a couple steps there. I
Okay.
retired in 2016 in June, and I was hired by St. Peter Middle School in August to fill in.
Oh, so you didn't quite like call it quits right away.
I had to fill in the first half of the year for a teacher on maternity leave. And the next year they called me up again, and I went back for 8 months. And I also did long-term stuff with Janesville and Waseca schools.
Oh, okay.
So otherwise I do the substitute teaching, which I always call guest teaching. It's a prefix for subordinate. You couldn't get away from the kids and the thrill of working in a school setting. And I just managed to find a few places where I really fit in and got to know the kids, and it's most of the time it's pretty good.
So what has Dobie been doing since he retired?
I still play my guitar. It's interesting going back there when I was 13 years old, like 60 years later. My buddy Bob, who played with me when I was 13 years old, he comes over
Oh,
and we
fun.
play songs, and I sing them all. Well, the summer times I still go out and build with the ramp and deck crew a couple of days a week. Um, my wife and I had a property in South Carolina. We stayed at for a few winters. It wasn't quite warm enough. The neighbors are encroaching on your territory. So we eventually ended up buying a place in Florida, which is just as crowded but warmer. We went swimming in January, for heaven's sake. Get a little bored sometimes, but there's a lot of 70-year-old people acting like they're 17. They're running around dating each other and driving their golf carts around all over the place. Take the back road over to Walmart and get everything you possibly could use.
While Dennis mocks others for behaving like they're 17, he still works like he's 17.
I kind of swapped over. I did 10, I think 12 years with Habitat for Humanity, and we'd build houses. And from the concrete floor, we just nail the boards together and make it work. And I'd done that kind of work before too. You just learn how things go, and you make things work. But I just switched over about 5 years ago to a company that finds people that are in homes they can't get out of their homes, and so we build decks and ramps for people to get in and out with their wheelchairs.
Although unable to fully step away from teaching quite yet, Dennis has definitely turned over a new leaf in his semi retirement.
Saw an entire book of sophomore poetry, Boomer Band 101, Farm Boy 101, very dear to my heart, and Miles Smiles, which is for my grandson.
Very nice.
It took me 70 years to be a grandfather. I wrote him a book, by God.
So, where did this love of writing come from?
I always enjoyed stories, and probably when I was 7 or 8 years old, when I could first print, my mom would say, "Oh, go write a story about a sheep in a field or something." I'd sit down and diligently write out a 3-page novel.
Dobie also has some advice for a young teacher just entering the field.
One of my great failings was I never learned the new technology, how to work with the new technology. And the Google Classroom stuff or the Moodle or whatever that you're being used. Uh, there's so much material out there. You don't have to sit down and beat yourself up all night for coming up with a lesson plan. I mean, you do, but you don't have to stay up all night. You can find lesson plans that are effective and important on the World Wide Web or whatever they call it now. There's so much material out there. So learn how to look at the lessons online type of stuff. Definitely. Another thing, getting a little more personal here, go to bed early. Right? You can't go out and party all weekend and come into school and think you're going to work from 8 to 3. No, you go to bed early, you get a good night's sleep, and you show up at 7 to 7:30 and work till 5. It's just the way it is. Now I know some teachers have to prepare for six classes. Say some teachers prepare for one class and they just have that same class all day long. That's a It's quite a contrast between the small schools and the big schools. Um, Otherwise, I'd say advice would be, okay, you want to be a teacher. First off, you got to toughen up your personality. Then you can teach your personality. Smile a lot, work with the kids, love them at the same time, get that 1% time when you say, well, no, we're doing this now. And the other thing, of course, would be the main thing I want to get by was yelling only works twice. One time it'll make them quiet down. Second time it'll get their attention. You go to yell a third time, they start yelling back at you. Have a better plan than that. Plan for 15 minutes at a time because that's all people's attention spans really is, especially with the younger kids. And there's nobody in the school that wants you to fail. A few kids, but no other administrator or teacher that wants you to fail. They want you to do well. Ask for help. Ask for advice. It's okay. Well, I grew up on a small family farm. It was 155 acres, about 8 miles southwest of Mapleton. And that family farm went back to my great grandfather, Joseph Dobie, who came over from Scotland as an indentured service servant and worked in 6 years in New York for his passage over. And he basically came over, riverboated to Mankato, walked 25 miles, and stole the claim of another person. He went out and got it.
Okay.
The guy was 6'4", weighed 200 pounds. He was a big
Big
dude.
guy.
He was just they riverboated into Mankato, Minnesota, on rivers, and he got off the boat and walked 25 miles and put his name on. It was a small farm, 155 acres. Now their farmers have tens of thousands of acres, and they hire crews to go out and work the land and take care of the livestock. And well, that farm boy of 1960s, 1970s, that would be me out there working the land and working with the animals and stuff. And it was a very interesting way of growing up because we had to do everything. We had to make sure we had everything done by 4 o'clock so we could go all the field work so we could go back to the farm and milk the cows and slaughter the hogs and gather the eggs.
So the cows kept you on schedule.
Yes, our cows don't take weekends off. The things that were important were we were expected to work. The job was expected to be done, so we just had to do whatever job it was, and that's all right because it really made us self-reliant. Another thing was very little was wasted on the farm. We could work, but at the end of the day, the extra radish leaves and the extra chicken feathers, whatever, we'd throw it out on the out to the hogs, and the hogs, of course, and the chickens and the cows, of course, would moo, and then they'd poo a little bit, and then we'd have to scoop poo, and we'd spread that out on the land. You don't waste stuff. One thing that my mother had on the wall, I don't know where the originated was, but it said, "Count the day lost when the setting sun sees no good work by my hand done." And so we worked every day, even if it was just 2 hours of chores in the morning, 2 hours of chores in the afternoon. We just worked it. Somewhere along the line, I turned 12 or 13 and thought my parents were the silliest people in the world. I'd hide out so I didn't have to get in on all the work. My dad came up, a friend or a neighbor of my dad came over and said, "I want to hire Dennis to plow my fields for me." My dad said, "I wouldn't hire him because he's a lazy worker." From that day on, I figured out nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody's going to outlast me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to work. I'm never going to quit. Never going to surrender. Die with my boots on.
Dobie's work ethic later translated to a long career in rock and roll.
I go back to when I was 11 years old and the Beatles came on television one day or one evening. I had to have a guitar. And by the time I was 13, I was playing high school dances, singing songs with my guitar with a couple of friends. And that morphed into college years, getting together with friends. And it just happened. I got a call about a month before I graduated from college that somebody needed a guitar player for a band. And so I went, and so I did that for 30 years. Switched over to bass guitar. You go back to all the years, all the jobs we played where we didn't get paid when we were just young kids, and it's probably about 2,500 times that I went out and played. Well, I kept track. For some reason, I thought it'd be good for tax purposes. I kept track of every job that we played. And we played for money. And again, that's for the 2,000 times we went out there. But you got to take into consideration, I met my wife. Our first date we went on was basically, "Come hear my band play." Right?
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool.
So 2,000 times we married within a year. And 2,000 times I got up and had to say goodbye to my wife and children and went off to play in the band. That was just a pretty good extra income at the time. People ask me why you go out and play guitar in a band. And, well, first off, it beats working. You know? As I would talk to my bandmates, I'd say sometimes you play for the audience, sometimes you play just because the music is so good, and then sometimes you just play for the money. You know, there's nobody out in the audience, nobody's causing much commotion. You just play for the money. Well, what always impressed me the most was, what better job can you possibly have than one that makes people so happy that they want to dance and clap their hands? How can you get better than that for a job? That's wonderful. Well, I'm not a classical poet, that's for sure. So I wrote down poems for basically every girlfriend that I ever had, which is counting up to about somewhere around 80. Yeah. And I expressed feelings, and some of them are universal. You get rejected, or you fall in love, that sort of thing too. But I also wrote stories about kids growing up and other things too. But basically, it was expressing feelings. A lot of times, I'd write things after an emotional experience, like you break up with a girlfriend, you write a poem. But there's some thoughtful things in there too about as I went through my life growing up and seeing my children act somewhat the same as what I did. It makes you stop and think, and well, we better write about that one.
So, how were you able to put together such a exhaustive collection?
I have an real old, small briefcase, suitcase type of thing, and every time I write a poem, I just throw it in the box after it sat around the house for a week or two. And pretty soon I had hundreds of them. I thought, well, I'll sit down and type them up. I had an operation or banged up something, and I just had to sit for a while anyway, so I just started typing up the poems. Well, my first two children did not want to have children. Thankfully, my youngest daughter did. So I was 70 years old when I first became a grandpa to a young lad named Miles. So that's where the Miles Smiles book comes in. Ta-da! Most of it was original writing for Miles. There were a few that poems that I'd written that I just dedicated to him instead of whatever relative I had dedicated to 40 years ago. But most of it was just writing about what he did just in a day for a walk around the yard. Just go outside for a half hour, 45 minutes, walk around the yard, not glued to the TV screen. He'd pick berries off the trees and eat them, and climb the tree, and he'd look at the little deadly mushrooms that are growing up in the yard.
Don't eat the mushrooms, Miles.
Or the walnuts that fall from the tree. Oh, we can't eat that; it's still not ripe. We'd just or walk around the block, and somebody had chicken, somebody had a dog. Watch the squirrel climb up the tree blackwards. But some of it also went on with, "Oh, Miles, here's what your future is." Thinking back about my life, it's going to be a lot like what your life is too. Because my life's a lot like my dad's. And by the time you're 20, you're going to get that sweetheart. You can't give up. You go through and you have kids around 30, and then you start looking forward to retirement around 50 to 60, and you're working a second job to have enough money to buy that lake cabin that you want, and all these things are awaiting you. But a lot of it's just walk around the yard and look at stuff. I've written down 4 of them. Something about Edgar Rice Burroughs with Pellucidar going to the Earth's core and discovering a whole lot of cavemen they could push around. John Grisham stuff too. 99% really good, interesting material. Alan Dean Foster did a series of books called The Spell Singer, where the guy did magic tricks by playing his guitar.
Oh, that's right up your alley.
Oh, I love that one, yeah. And then, of course, go back to Robert Heinlein, one of the greats.